This happened about 2 years ago, but I still remember it very clearly. I live in Canada, and went to a high school that was centered around Aboriginal culture. Once a year they have Culture Camp, where students from any grade can go on a 3-day, 2-night camping trip to learn more about Aboriginal traditions and customs. It was my last year of school, so I decided to go. The campground was nice, near a lake, and we stayed in cabins with bunk beds. On the last night the students and teachers were telling ghost stories around the fire. Some of them had crazy true stories of their own, so safe to say I was a bit freaked out. When I got back to the cabin, one of the girls told me she's pretty scared because the night before she woke up in the middle of the night and saw a face in the window, but just went back to sleep immediately. I'm easily spooked, so at this point I knew I was going to have trouble sleeping that night. I was on the top bunk, right across from the door with the window beside it. I borrowed a girl's phone for the light so I could read before bed. I was reading 1984 at the time, but kept glancing at the window. At about 2:50 a.m. the phone dropped on the ground, light side down, and I didn't want to wake up the other girls, so I decided to just leave it and go to sleep. Just as I was dozing off, someone or something started to violently, and I mean super violently, try and open the door, for about 20 seconds straight. I remember just staring in horror, and being completely paralyzed. It didn't wake anybody else up. A few minutes later, it happened again, this time I did a little yelp. This happened on repeat until dawn. I stared at the window all night in terror, hoping nothing would look through, and thankfully it didn't. As soon as I realized other people were waking up, I bolted out the door and cleansed myself with sage. I told the people in my cabin, but they just thought it was some boys playing a prank on us. There are many decks on the cabin, so if someone is walking up to the door you can clearly hear their footsteps, and see them walking by through the window. And plus, why would someone stand outside the door for 3 hours just for a prank? I know it's not the scariest thing, but it still gives me chills to this day. The creepiest part is that later on a teacher told us all that the bunk bed frames were donated from an old residential school. This content was provided by angelotricarico.com. Subscribe